Hello sports fans, welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over Week 9 college football predictions. So last week I had a record of 15-3, and that brings my record on the season to 131-22. Kicking things off this week, we've got Florida State visiting Wake Forest. So Wake Forest has not been very good this year. They have just one win in ACC play, and that came last week against Pitt. Florida State has been great. They're coming with a big win over Duke, and they do need to avoid a letdown game. But Florida State has one of the highest scoring offenses in the country, scoring 41.6 points per game. And Wake Forest has the worst scoring offense in the ACC, scoring just 23.1 points a game. So Florida State will be able to easily outscore a bad Wake Forest offense, plus the Florida State defense is very good. Florida State wins this one easily by a score of 38-13. Up next, we got Oklahoma visiting Kansas. So Oklahoma's coming off a game against UCF that was a lot closer than it should have been. I think this could be a tricky game for the Sooners, because Kansas has been good this year. They're 5-2. They're home and coming off a bye. Now Kansas will be without quarterback Jalen Daniels, but he's been out for a lot of the season battling a back injury. And Jason Bean, their backup quarterback, he's been good for the Jayhawks so far. Now, the Kansas offense is very good, scoring 35 points a game, but their defense is not good, allowing 27 points a game. And they have to face an Oklahoma offense that is very good, scoring 43 points a game. And I think Kansas will keep this close, but I think Oklahoma's offense is just going to be too much in the end, and Oklahoma gets to win by a score of 35-27, but Kansas keeps it very close. Up next, we got Indiana visiting Penn State. So Penn State needs a bounce-back game after a bad game last week against Ohio State, and Indiana's the perfect team to have a bounce-back game against, because Indiana's awful. They're 0-4 against Big Ten opponents. Their offense can't score as they average just 18 points a game. Their defense struggles to stop their opponents, allowing nearly 30 points a game. So I don't think Penn State will have much of a problem getting their much-needed bounce-back win. Penn State dominates Indiana and wins by a score of 41-3. Up next, we got Georgia against Florida in Jacksonville. So Georgia will be playing their first game without star tight end Brock Bowers, as he suffered an ankle injury against Vanderbilt and is going to miss the remainder of the season. Now, I think in one of these upcoming games without Brock Bowers, Georgia is going to lose. Now, will it be this game? I don't know, but I think Georgia is going to drop a game in the next couple games because they've got a pretty tough stretch upcoming. Now, Florida's been pretty good this year, and a big reason why is quarterback Graham Mertz has been able to protect the football, and he has just 2 interceptions this year after being extremely turnover-prone in his time at Wisconsin. Now, Florida's been pretty good offensively. They have a good run game and a pretty good pass game. And Georgia's defense is very good, allowing just 14 points a game. But they haven't really faced a great offense and haven't really been tested. Now, I know Florida's offense isn't amazing, but it's still going to be one of the better offenses Georgia's defense has faced so far this year. I think Florida's going to make this one interesting because Georgia has not been very convincing so far this season, and they're also without Brock Bowers. I do think Georgia gets the win, as they're the better team and coming off a bye. But Georgia gets the win in a close one, 31-20. Next game, we got Texas hosting BYU. So Texas will be without star quarterback Quinn Ewers for the next few games after he suffered a shoulder injury in the win over Houston last week. Texas will now be starting redshirt freshman Malik Murphy at quarterback. And while a new quarterback at Texas makes things interesting, I don't think Texas will need a huge offensive game because BYU, while they are 5-2, their offense has not been the reason why they're that good. Their offense scores just 27.6 points a game and averages barely over 300 yards of offense per game. Now, they do have to face a very good Texas defense, but I don't really think the BYU offense will get a lot going. Now, BYU has a solid defense, but I would expect the Texas offense, even with Murphy at quarterback being a new face at quarterback, I still think they'll be able to get enough points on the board, and Texas gets to win here by a score of 27-13. Up next, we got Utah hosting Oregon. So Utah needs to avoid a letdown game after a big win over USC, and Utah will be starting Bryson Barnes at quarterback after they announced their starting quarterback Cam Rising will not play this year, and he will get a medical redshirt so he can instead play next season. But Barnes was good last week with 4 total touchdowns in the win over USC, but he faces a much tougher task in a tough Oregon defense. Oregon's defense is allowing just 17 points a game, is great against the pass, and great against the run. Now, the Utah defense is great as well, but this is a very tough Oregon offense to defend because they have a very balanced offense. They score 47 points a game, they throw for 326 yards a game, and run for 226 yards a game. So I definitely think this will be a lower scoring game, but eventually I think the Oregon offense is just going to be too much for the Utah offense to keep up with, and Oregon gets to win by a score of 28-13. Up next, we got Duke visiting Louisville. So Duke might be without star quarterback Riley Leonard as he re-aggravated his ankle injury last week in the loss to Florida State. Now, Leonard didn't return to that game, but to me it seemed like it was just a precautionary reason. Leonard is a game-time decision this week, but I would expect him to play. But Duke's defense has been insane so far this year, allowing just 14 points a game, and that includes allowing 38 last week against Florida State. Before that, the highest they allowed all year was 21. Now, Louisville's offense has been good, but I think Duke's defense will be able to shut down the Cardinals' offense. Now, Louisville has been able to stop the run, which is what Duke wants to do offensively, but if Riley Leonard plays, I think he's going to lead Duke's offense and he will lead Duke to the win. So if Riley Leonard plays, which I think he will, Duke wins by a score of 27-17. If not, then Louisville wins by a score of 20-13. Next game, we got Pitt visiting Notre Dame. So Pitt's been pretty bad this year. They've lost 5 of their last 6, and their one win was a shocking win over Louisville. Pitt now has been bad offensively, averaging just 24 points a game. They don't throw the ball very well or run the ball very well, and they now have to face an elite Notre Dame defense, which is one of the best defenses in the country. Notre Dame is also coming off a bye. They will win this game easily by a score of 41-6. Next game, we got Rice hosting Tulane. So Tulane has been good this year, but their pass defense has not been great, allowing 263 passing yards a game, and they're also, over their last 2 games, have allowed 300 yards in each of those last 2. Now, Rice actually has a really good passing offense with 319 passing yards per game, which is best in the American, and they've also got a good quarterback in JT Daniels. So I think Rice will be able to get some points on the board, but Tulane is the better team. Rice makes it very interesting and a close game against Tulane, but Tulane is just much better here, and they got the win by a score of 41-28. Next game, we got USC visiting Cal. So USC's lost 2 games in a row to Notre Dame and Utah. Both teams have great defenses. Now USC faces Cal, another team with a good defense, but USC really needs a win here. I think they're going to be able to score even against a tough Cal defense, because we've already seen Cal's defense allow points, as they've allowed over 50 points to Washington and Oregon. So I think they're going to allow points to another really good offense in USC, and USC gets their much-needed win to avoid a 3rd straight loss, and they beat Cal by a score of 42-24. Next game, we got Washington visiting Stanford. So Washington is coming off a really bad game against Arizona State, where they only scored 15 points, didn't score an offensive touchdown. Washington really needs a massive win to get some style points this week ahead of the College Football Playoff Committee's first rankings on Tuesday, and they're a great opportunity to get a dominant win over Stanford, as Stanford is terrible. They're just 2-5, giving up 315 passing yards per game, and Washington's offense is going to have a field day. They're going to prove last week against Ohio State was a fluke. Michael Penix Jr. will have a monster game, so he is still the Heisman favorite, and Washington will annihilate Stanford, winning 56-14. Next game, we got Colorado State hosting Air Force. So Air Force has been great this year. They have a great run game, as any triple option team does, but they've also got an outstanding defense, allowing just 13.4 points per game. Colorado State does have a very good offense, and specifically a great passing attack, but the Air Force pass defense has been elite, holding opponents to just 154 passing yards per game. So I think Air Force will remain undefeated this week, and they will beat Colorado State in a close one by a score of 27-21. Up next, we got Kentucky hosting Tennessee. So Tennessee's coming off a really weird game where they had an elite first half against Alabama and a terrible second half. So which Tennessee team is going to show up this week, I don't know. But Kentucky's looking for a bounce-back game after losing 2 straight. Their offense needs to be better, but they face a tough Tennessee defense that is very good against the pass and the run. Kentucky also has a pretty good defense, especially against the run, which is exactly what Tennessee has been doing offensively so far. But I think Tennessee's defense is the difference here. Joe Milton's been playing a little bit better. He had a good game against Alabama last week, and I think he's going to be able to build on that. Tennessee hands Kentucky their 3rd straight loss and wins by a score of 24-14. Next game, we got Wisconsin hosting Ohio State. So Wisconsin has not been great so far this season, especially offensively. They're averaging just 26 points a game and playing without starting quarterback Tanner Mordecai. Now, Wisconsin's defense is very good, allowing just 18 points a game, but with how little Wisconsin is able to score, I think they're going to have a hard time winning this game. Now, they do have a great run game with Braylon Allen, but it's really hard to run the football against Ohio State's defensive front, which has held Penn State to 49 rushing yards last week. So I think this will be a lower scoring game. I don't trust the Wisconsin offense. Ohio State gets to win by a score of 26-12. Next game, we got Ole Miss hosting Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt's only 2-6, and they've lost 6 straight, but they've actually played some pretty close games so far this year. Ole Miss and their offense has been great, but very inconsistent at some times this season. But they should be able to run the ball very effectively against a Vanderbilt defense that allows 174 rushing yards per game. Now, the Vanderbilt offense is pretty good and could hang around, but I think the Ole Miss offense is just going to be way too much for Vanderbilt to handle, and Ole Miss wins this one pretty easily by a score of 45-20. Next game, we got Colorado visiting UCLA. So Colorado has fallen off a cliff after their strong start to the season. They've lost 3 of their last 4, including blowing a 29-0 lead in their most recent game against Stanford. Colorado relies heavily on their offense, specifically their passing game, and UCLA has a very good pass defense. They have the best pass defense in the Pac-12, they have the best run defense in the Pac-12, and the best scoring defense in the Pac-12. So UCLA's defense is going to dominate this game. And offensively for UCLA, they made a quarterback change going from true freshman Dante Moore to Ethan Garbers last week, but both should be able to see playing time, as I think UCLA will easily beat Colorado, and their offense will be able to score a lot of points against the Colorado defense that's allowing nearly 36 points a game, and UCLA gets to win by a score of 38-14. Up next, we got Georgia Tech hosting North Carolina. So North Carolina needs a bounce back win in a big way after a terrible loss to a terrible Virginia team. Georgia Tech's defense is terrible, allowing 30 points a game. I think Drake May and the North Carolina offense start strong and look to get a big bounce back win, and I think they do exactly that. North Carolina dominates Georgia Tech, winning by a score of 45-17. Next game, we got Old Dominion visiting James Madison. So James Madison's been great so far this year. They're 7-0, and they have a great defense. Old Dominion's offense isn't great, and I don't think they're going to be able to get much going against good Duke's defense. So James Madison remains undefeated and wins this game by a score of 24-13. And our final game, we've got Arizona hosting Oregon State. This is another tougher game to predict. Arizona's been playing very well lately, playing close games against Washington and USC before destroying Washington State. They don't have to face a good Oregon State team, and we don't know who's going to be at quarterback for Arizona, whether that is going to be Jaden DeLaura, who was the starter before his ankle injury, or No Fafita, who's been great for Arizona at replacing the injured Jaden DeLaura. Whoever is at quarterback will have to face a very good Oregon State defense. I think Oregon State is the better team here, and they will get the win, but all of Arizona's losses have been within one score. I think that trend continues. Oregon State wins, but it's a very close game, 33-27. But those are my Week 9 college football predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible. Make sure to check out the community tab of my channel where you guys can vote on who you think will win some of this week's big games. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.